Welcome to today's Garage Devotional. I'm Pastor Ted from Connect Church. You might be wondering why we're not out in the garage today. I miss being out there. We'll probably be out there next week. Last Saturday, I tweaked my back, and I think because I've been exercising more in our elliptical to stay more healthy, and as well, I was working on the car and sitting in the car in awkward positions, trying to get the dash in, and also laying under the dash, trying to see that the right wires in the right places. And so there's a lot of twisting and turning, and I think that helped with tweaking my back. But it's getting better every day. So I think we'll be back out, at least doing the Garage Devotional next week. But we want to continue our journey series. And I want to look at, are we ready? Or the other way of putting it, the need for readiness and preparation. As we said, we're following Jesus on the path to the cross. He's going to put himself on that cross, and we find him today at the house of Mary and Martha. So let's look at Luke 10, verse 38 through 42. Now, as they went on their way, Jesus entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to his teaching. But Martha was distracted with much serving. And she went up to him and said, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her then to help me." But the Lord answered her, "Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things. But one thing is necessary. Mary has chosen the good portion, which will not be taken away from her." Jesus, as I said, is making his way to the cross, making sure he's going to be put at the cross. And he stops at Martha and Mary's home on the way there. He goes to this town many times, and he's very frequently in their homes. But you also might know Mary and Martha because they have a pretty famous brother who is named Lazarus. And Lazarus was the one that Jesus raised from the dead. The house belonged to Martha, the eldest. This was her home, and this was the town that they lived in. And we find in the account here of chapter 10 that Martha was doing all the serving. We find that Martha's younger sister, Mary, was sitting and listening at Jesus' feet with the other disciples, and Martha was all alone to serve all the guests. Martha was so upset that Mary was not fulfilling her responsibilities and so frustrated that she went to Jesus and demanded to Jesus that he would make Mary serve with Martha. Jesus told her that she was distracted with all the preparations and that Mary had chosen the good thing, or the one thing, or the best thing. Martha's serving and preparation and Mary's sitting and receiving from Jesus' teaching were both good and were both needed, but one thing was more important at that moment. Let me ask us a question. How are we allowing ourselves to be distracted by good things? Not bad things, but by good things. Or how are we finding ourselves being distracted with worthless things, evil things, or our fallen nature? While Jesus does not condemn Martha here, he reminds us that when we face the option of the best and the good, we should always choose the best. He didn't condemn her, but he reminds us that when we're faced between two options, the good and the best, always choose the best. Sometimes serving is the best thing, but being present always is the best thing. Being present with Jesus is always the best thing. Sometimes serving and doing what we're supposed to be doing is the best thing. But if it is choosing between the best thing, which at this point would be being in the presence of Jesus, and the second best thing, serving, choose the best thing, being in the presence of Jesus. If we are not spending time with Jesus and the Holy Spirit, we will find ourselves performing works that are fruitless and dead. We need to remember that always the best thing precedes doing. Always in that. Being present with Jesus will produce good fruit and good works. That means spending time with him. So we need to learn the best thing from the good thing. They're both important. They're both important. Sometimes doing good can be a distraction from doing the best. Martha was distracted by being good to the degree that she was angry with her sister for choosing to sit at Jesus' feet. There are times when we are and can do both, the best and the good thing, through time management and scheduling. That's another thing we could look at later on. Also, in this, we want to look and go a little farther in the Gospel of Luke and look at this twofold or two-part thing, choosing the best thing, and also the need to be prepared. Choosing the best thing we just looked at. Let's look at the next thing, the need to be prepared. Luke chapter 12, 35 through 48 is the context. I encourage you to go back and read it. I'm not going to read this whole passage, but that's the context, Luke 12, 35 through 48. But I will begin reading in verse 37, which says, "Blessed are those servants whom the master finds awake when he comes. Truly I say to you, he will dress himself for service and have them recline at the table, and he will come and serve them. If he comes in the second watch or in the third and finds them awake, blessed are those servants." So we're learning that Jesus is going to come in an hour and a time we don't know. But he says we are always to be ready for him. And so in this part, he says, blessed are those who are ready when he comes. He says, blessed are those. He'll go on to say, you also must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour that you do not expect. Peter said, Lord, are you telling this parable for us or for all? And the Lord said, when is this faithful and wise manager? Whom is this faithful and wise manager? Whom is this master will set over his household to give them their portion of food at the proper time? Blessed is the servant whom his master will find so doing when he comes. Truly I say to you, he will set him over all his possessions. But if that servant says to himself, my master has delayed in coming, and begins to beat the male and female servants and eat and drink and get drunk, the master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect and in an hour he does not know, and will cut him in pieces and put him with the unfaithful. Now he's telling us not literally that this person's going to be cut in pieces. He's telling us that we are to be ready all the time, because we don't know the hour when Jesus is coming. And that we are to be doing everything he calls us to do and not slack off or not get distracted or not grow weary in it. But we're to press in and follow Jesus fully, because he could come today or he could come 10 years from now, 20 years from now. We don't know, but we are to be prepared and ready. Jesus is using an imagery of the wedding feast in the first century Israel here for a part of this passage. The wedding party and the bride would be waiting for the groom to arrive. And the groom could arrive at any hour. He could arrive at midnight. He could arrive 2 days later. But the wedding party had to be ready. So when the groom arrived, they could go in and celebrate the wedding feast. Then he uses a second example of the head of a household who the master leaves and leaves this other headmaster, head servant, to take care of all the household. And he goes away and they don't know when he's going to return. And he uses this picture that they went on for a long period of time, and that what happens is this master begins abusing the servants and begins drinking the wine and having extravagant parties. And then the homeowner comes back, the master comes back in an hour that he didn't expect and found him doing this. And then he judges that person and that master, and that master is cast out. We're called to be ready and prepared for Jesus' return. We're told by emergency people these days that we are to keep stores of food and water and first aid kits and flashlights and all that stuff, and an emergency kit in case an earthquake happens or some other disaster happens. And if it's important to do it that way, how much more important it is to be ready for the coming of Jesus. That we won't miss his return, that we won't become distracted in things of the flesh and things of the world that take us away from Jesus. Being prepared involves being ready for Jesus. Being prepared is being ready for Jesus' return every day, which involves being present and in the presence of Jesus. It involves being present and in the presence of Jesus and the Holy Spirit, being daily enriched through his word and through prayer, and by being on mission, by loving others and serving others. In other words, living like Jesus would live, and that we be willing to give our lives away, and that we're willing to give others forgiveness, and that we're expecting Jesus every minute of every day. Let's expect Jesus. I know I went long today. It's a little harder to get this devotional together, but let's expect Jesus' return each and every day. Let's be prepared. Let's know how to choose the best from the good, and let's learn how to do both as we live out our lives. Next week, we'll pick it up again with another part of Jesus' journey. Lord bless you. See you next week.